the agile team structure. And now let's move further and ask a few more questions. What are the challenges in building agile teams? I'm sure these challenges are there in regular teams also, but in agile teams, the enormity of the challenges are completely in a different proposition. It takes a very huge propositions because of the small size of the team and the high intensive collaborative effort that the agile teams are into. Even though there are several challenges, I have just picked up the top 3 challenges from my perspective, which comes and acts as an impediment to build an agile team. Number 1, trust deficit. Number 2, lack of ownership. Number 3, attitude towards conflict. Let's go into detail of each one of them one at a time. Let me start from the bottom, the attitude towards conflict, and move our way up, because the first one is the biggest of all. Start with the attitude towards conflict. There are people who love conflict. I have seen that. But there are many people who fear conflict. And there are many people who take the flight on the very first sight of conflict. Many people don't like conflict. They don't want to be in a conflict scenario. But conflict is not as bad as we think. Many times a conflict is very good. It is healthy. But only the conflict reaches a certain stage, it shows its ugly head. Otherwise, the attitude towards conflict should be positive most of the time. That is one of the challenges. Many people, many team members have fear towards conflict, and that actually works against building an agile team. If we bring an attitude, a positive attitude towards conflict, yes, conflict is good, let's discuss and resolve the conflict, then that's the attitude that we are looking at. That will help us build an agile team. So there are many ways to resolve conflicts. That's a different topic in itself, but I leave it there, and I say that the fear of conflict, the current attitude towards conflict itself, is one of the challenges in building very well formed high performance agile team. Number 2, the lack of ownership. This is a new concept. I mean, not entirely a new concept, but most of the team members, this is a new thing because they don't own anything. Probably most of the team members have an idea that I own my piece of code, I own my piece of work, I own only a few pages of documentation. But who owns a project? It is a project manager. So that's the gap here. If there is one person who owns the project and the project results, and there is a problem. That's not normal in agile teams. What is normal, what is acceptable in agile team is the entire team owns the results, which is not quite common today. When you want to build an agile team, the team should take up and accept and commit to the ownership and the accountability. So the lack of ownership is one of the challenges. How to bring in the ownership within the people, within the team members, is the real challenge. And then number 1, we'll talk about the first one, the trust deficit. It's a big thing. How to build trust within the team, whether team members trust one another, whether the team trusts their management, whether the management trusts their team, whether the team trusts the customer, or on the other way, the customer trusts the team. And the equation runs across all directions. And each relationship between two parties is two-directional. It's back and forth. It's not one way. So creating a trust environment is another challenge. There's a lot of trust deficits within the team. I can quote many examples. I'm sure a lot of you would have gone through scenarios where you would see that one member of the team do not trust the other guy, which is very common, especially when we are working in a distributed environment, where there are teams sitting in one location, there is another team which is sitting in another location, and having a team which is thriving on trust is a big task. It's a tall order. So let's talk more about the trust deficit and look at what is this trust is all about. And there is a very popular book, I'm sure many of us would have seen that book, would have read the book, by Stephen M.R. Covey, The Speed of Trust. There's one thing that changes everything is trust. He says that when there is trust, the speed of doing things are extremely different. When trust goes up, speed will also go up and cost will go down. This is from the book The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey. And he also goes on to say the ability to build trust with customers, bosses, co-workers, and subordinates is essential to build success. If you think a little more into what is being said, we can actually take it to the next level. The ability to build trust with your spouse, with your children, with your parents, with your friends is fundamental to your success, personal success. Because trust is one thing that can change everything, as they say. What is so different about trust? When there is trust within the team, there are a lot of things that just dies down. There is an understanding, there is an implicit acceptance that everybody does their best and everybody is working towards everyone else's success, and that feeling itself is sufficient to increase the performance of the teams. You can take the examples that we see on today's environment in the be it cricket, be it in tennis, the kind of trust deficit within the team. Even the recent developments that we see in tennis and cricket shows very clearly there is trust deficit within the team, and obviously that's going to impact. Having a trust within the team is essential and it is fundamental for performance. The ability to build trust with customers, bosses, co-workers,